Hey, New Jersey. You know I've been trying to interview each and every one of our gubernatorial candidates. And since I saw Stephen Fulop in LBI but didn't get a question in, I decided I might have a better shot if I saw him at a meet and greet in Asbury.
How many of you are legitimately undecided on this election?
Me. And since I don't want to be undecided, but I ran into my TikTok friend, Teacher Pay with K, and she just finished her interview with Stephen, she hooked me up with Lisa, who hooked me up with Janie, who in turn very graciously hooked me up with a face-to-face interview with Stephen Fulop himself. So you better believe I didn't mind the hour and 10-minute drive up to Jersey City from Ocean County, especially if there's some sort of caffeination involved. And he's right on time. Cheers. So let's just dive right in. I was shocked that he was giving me his whole afternoon. Literally cleared his calendar. No question off limits.
The information, I think, that's out there is just insane. It's absolutely crazy. That kind of brings me to my focus. My focus really is being a purveyor of information and like, hey, this is what I heard, Okay, well, let's think about this rationally here. Yeah. I definitely want to give you the opportunity to answer for some of the things that people have been bugging me about.
Go ahead.
If that's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing off limits.
Cool. What they ask about, honestly, across the board for every candidate is about money that's funding their campaigns. That is literally the one thing that tracks over every single.
Yeah, as it should.
I agree. I agree. I was asked about Sean Spiller, obviously his NJEA. Where did the dues come from? Why did did the teachers know? I did not have an opportunity to really hone in on Mikey Sherrill with that question simply because I had 11 minutes with her. For you, all I keep hearing over and over and over again is about receiving money from the Kushners, receiving money from big developers. And I'm hearing it from a lot of young kids who went to school around here and were forced to move down by me because they can't afford to live up here.
Let me start with Kushners, then we'll go developers. You know, the Kushners are developers, and then we'll talk about affordability.
Sounds good.
There are two sides in parts to the Kushner family. Not everybody with the last name Kushner is related to the presidents. Jared Kushner, Charlie Kushner are not donors of mine. And that's been public. One side went to jail because of this, actually. Okay, with Chris Christie kind of prosecuted that. Okay, they have no relationship. I've known that side since middle school, and at bar mitzvahs, weddings. We both come from Holocaust survivor families. That family is not related to the president, and I've known him since I was a child. So when somebody says that there's something wrong with a childhood friend supporting me, I'm going to push back on it. In regards to developers overall, I have been the most YIMBY, yes in my backyard, probably executive or mayor in the state, and one of the most in the country. I was on the YIMBY for Harris calls. I was like, I believe building housing is productive. I'm a pro-growth mayor. When we got into office, I said I was going to phase out tax abatements, and I did that. So for 8 years, we didn't do a single tax abatement, not one. But we grew a lot, and the city has prospered. So if a real estate developer is a supporter or a donor, and they get nothing in return for it, there's no quid pro quo, I would suggest to somebody, so what? What's the big deal? Okay? It's no different than any other donor as long as you're not getting something in return. Jersey City has built more housing and more affordable housing than anybody else in the state. It's also a reality that Jersey City is a very expensive place to live.
Why do you think that is?
It's because New York City is not building enough housing. When Jersey City has built more than the majority of the boroughs in New York City last year, that's a true stat, it speaks to the fact that the pressure in all of North Jersey is going to be astronomical on housing because the demand in New York City is very high. So you see everything around. That's why all of North Jersey has the pressure it does. Now, it doesn't matter if we build double the amount of housing in Jersey City. You might see some rent stabilization, but you need a regional and statewide plan. Hoboken can't do it by itself. Jersey City, Newark, the reality is that you need a statewide plan. So yeah, we've grown fast. Yeah, rents have grown, unfortunately. But if you take a step back and you think about it from a common sense standpoint, being that we are across the river from New York, and the New York market is not growing and we are growing, you could express the fact that demand would be high here and supply is limited even though we're building, so prices are going to go up. In some ways, we are a victim of success, being that we've invested a lot in culture and art and these sort of pedestrian plazas and these sort of things, that people do want to live here. And that's unfortunately been an outcome that has increased rent. But I would say that the housing conversation for New Jersey going forward, if you are going to solve it, it's based on having a statewide plan.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel as though you are relating New York to Jersey City, as I, from Ocean County, would relate Jersey City, Hoboken to Ocean County. Through COVID, because things blew up here, everyone moved down to us. And what's very interesting about that is I bought my house in Toms River right at the height of COVID, and we got an excellent interest rate, but a month later, interest rates skyrocketed. However, we bought our home, and now it's worth over $100,000 more.
Yeah, because your timing was perfect.
In my own town, apartment complexes are being built all over the place, and townhomes, and just...
And rents are high.
And rents are extremely high, extremely high. If you didn't buy when I bought, and you waited literally 1 month later, you're still renting right now. And those rents they're astronomical. I have quite a few friends who are, very frustrated. They thought at this point that they would be in a home, and, they're all married and wanting to have kids, but can't because they just don't have a place to stick a baby. They're in a 1-bedroom apartment for $2,000 a month, and they just can't get ahead. So when it comes to rent stabilization, and maybe it's just something I don't necessarily understand very well, is there a way to implement policy for landlords that incentivizes them to keep rents, say, a certain amount for a certain amount of time?
The challenging thing is that the laws in the state of New Jersey are very pro-landowner, okay, as a starting point. And when you try to put caps on rent, okay, absolute caps, what you tend to get is a lack of development and growth. And if people aren't building more supply and demand continues to grow, then you're going to have this issue around housing supply pressure elsewhere. Some controls and some parameters and reasonable increases, that's fair. But just saying I'm going to fix your rent in the next 6 years at X dollars, I think the end outcome of that is you will stop growth in the state, which would ultimately increase taxes, and which would decrease housing supply.
Interesting.
So it's all kind of linked together, and you got to kind of try to find this balance, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
People's knee-jerk reaction is just, stop the rent increases, but it does have outcomes that are unintended sometimes when you do things like that.
I told you he gave me his whole afternoon. In part 2 of our Coffee with a Candidate conversation, he discusses why he's a people-powered grassroots campaign.